This is Near Enough to Hell, a Ghost of El Paso story, part 24, the Mastermind Confrontation. Gasp. So last time we triggered the end, and in answering, or theorizing, I should say, because we're using some of the older rules for the between, but transitioning into the newer state. We talked about the mastermind clues that had been gathered thus far to figure out what the Reynolds' plan was, and decided that they were going to basically overclock the engine of the train of the dead so that as it comes screaming around the bend of El Paso, it will derail, destroying the town and punching a hole between the veil of life and death to open a gateway so that the dead can return through it. All of this destruction just for the purpose of bringing Edward Reynolds back to life. And so, in starting the mastermind confrontation proper, the question is, how can we board the train of the dead? As a complexity 6. Answering this will allow you to resolve the mastermind confrontation by boarding the train and ensuring it does not get derailed, and thus, deal with the Reynolds as well. It is complexity 6, and you have until the end of the night phase. If the night phase passes without the threat being resolved, the train will derail and El Paso will be destroyed. So it's the day phase. Let's take a look at the state of our hunters and then figure out what you all want to do. Jackie is fine. Graves stacked with conditions. Death Touch and Own of the Vrykalakas and the thing that was Bartholomew Graves. Diamond Dave is most beloved. And Andrew Harrington is feeling empty and has a broken wrist after Lady Antonia basically cut him down a size. And I'm excited to see what happens next. So let's talk about day phase. Did Jackie get assigned a task from Diamond Dave during the dawn?
Yeah, I don't remember. I think it was to protect Lady Antonia.
Ah, right. Yes, I remember
Yeah.
now. Very good. Well, then, Jackie, with that in mind, from your dear elder brother, what do you wish to do today?
Well, I'm gonna go to the good Lady Antonia's room, wherever she may be staying. I wouldn't know. Not really my type. And I'll go and knock on the door and offer the services of the Vigilance Committee to her.
Delightful. Graves, what about you?
Well, we need to figure out how to board the train of the dead. And I figure that's probably my wheelhouse. So I'm going to try to find some dead people to talk to.
Mmm, love it. Diamond Dave, what about you?
I am gonna I think I'm gonna stay around the Red Rock Cantina and put some words out and things like that. But I do want to talk to Marina about looking at some ghost horses.
Talk to Marina about some ghost horses. Love
So I'll need to do
it.
that.
Yeah.
Have you met my
We'll talk about that
associate?
move. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. All right, very good. And
Thalia
Harrington.
Marina, sorry.
Yeah, that was all good. Harrington, what about you?
Uh, well, since Graves wants to talk to some dead people, I think I can help in that matter because we do, in fact, have dead people in town. We just need a shovel, really.
Is that
Uh,
right?
s- yeah, I'm gunning for a vulnerable move because both me and Graves are very
Yes.
stacked on conditions.
Let's do it,
Absolutely.
baby.
Let's
Two
Gonna
kick.
birds, one
make some
stone.
dead? Ooh.
No, I think we absolutely need to kick things off with some good old fashioned grave robbing at the crack of dawn. Um,
Mhm.
Go ahead and who's this is going to be petty theft, I assume.
Uh,
Because
yeah, apparently.
makes sense. All right, chaotic. You'll be your vice. You can go ahead and set the
Mhm.
scene, and then the two of you role play from there.
I think this plan was sort of established last night. Typically, you don't want to be scuttling late at night because, well, you've got the issue of dogs chasing after you and whatnot, just because everything's on alert. But early in the morning, typically when the dogs are getting fed and whatnot, and the owner is just distracted from the graveyard, is a perfect time to steal. I think this is a little bit going out of left field for Andrew because Andrew steals things that won't be missed, but the dead, people will miss that. So, but as like he's probably digging, you can see his wrist that is like twisted at like a very distinct angle, not enough to like impede him, but it doesn't seem like he's affected by the pain and just is dealing with it.
I think like Graves tries to not let you dig because after that like that's crazy business. And as he has this shovel, maybe we both have shovels, probably just fucking
Mhm.
grave robbing, of course we are. I look over at your hand. I don't stop what I'm doing at all. Did you get in a fight?
Yes. Well, Lady Antonia, she seems to think that she knows what's best for El Paso and thinks that, well, anything of the supernatural variety needs to leave.
She's not entirely wrong. He's just
Mm.
digging as he's talking now that you've started the conversation. But she didn't seem the fighting type, unless you instigated, Marshall.
No, she's the one that instigated. She's the one that planted in the idea to use supernatural forces. But then when it came time to deal with the consequences, rather than trying to have a nice conversation about it, she seems more about just destroying it entirely.
I
I
don't.
feel
Hmm. What do you feel about it, Marshall? Please.
I feel empty, as though my soul has been ripped asunder.
Maybe it has. Because I don't think you can destroy what you're dealing with, Marshall. I don't think any of us can, but especially not you. And not just because you don't want to. How long have you known this friend of yours?
I've known since the old Marshal died. But I've known about the supernatural world for much longer than that. I've known what people do when they don't understand. And Lady Antonio thinks I'm a child and I should grow up. But I don't think she knows what she means. And I think I should just give her a taste of her own medicine to show her what that means. And I think with that, like there is a sudden thunk of the shovel hitting the box within the grave. The particular grave that we're digging in is Jimmy Pike.
A
I think
fresh grave indeed.
that's crazy. That's crazy. After you hit that thunk, I think Graves shoves aside his shovel and like starts dusting off the top. Before doesn't open it yet. Turns back to you. Marshall, I know you think Lady Antonia doesn't know what she's talking about. I assure you she does. But I also think you know what you're talking about. And I think you're both playing a very dangerous game. You're welcome to do so. I won't interfere, but I have to make a request. Let's prioritize one devil at a time. All right?
Of course.
Thank you.
I respect you as a friend. This is why I'm out here doing this business.
That's a good place to cut the scene. What conditions were we angling to clear there, Harrington?
I'm clearing empty
Makes
because
sense.
I can deal with broken wrist through my grit. So
Fair enough. And what about you, Graves?
Um, I'm not sure which one's more appropriate to clear, actually. I think probably, I don't know. Maybe the Omen of the Rykolakis because
I'm
it's,
feeling that one makes the most sense if you wanted to
yeah.
clear that one.
I was
Yeah.
like, that one makes the most sense here because things have like solidified
okay.
to like a
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I agree. What is the clue that will be stumbled on during the scene?
Hmm.
I'm adopting meshing the newer rules, which is just to say that it's definitively a clue, and the two of you can define it together if you so desire.
Okay, I was like, it was
Okay.
chaotic spice.
Yeah, I think the clue is just something we notice is that other graves have been dug up already.
Oh
Oh,
shit.
interesting. Okay. Other
That's fun.
graves in El Paso have been dug up. That's good. I like it a lot.
That's
Add that to
delicious.
the clue list beneath the mastermind sheet.
So fun.
Although I noticed that we already have one clue listed there, and is that supposed to be there?
I have no
Yes.
idea.
Yes, because you tried to kill a person earlier in the campaign and they survived, and that counts as a mastermind clue.
Yeah, but that was a mastermind clue that was part of the theory structure, I believe. Not the theory. That was an actual
Okay.
like clue, I
Okay.
believe. Yeah. So that one's
Ah, okay.
yeah,
All right.
because blank slate on these clues. Yeah.
Tragique.
Tragique. Diamond Dave, spending your morning mostly out of the Red Rock Cantina, sending out notices and such like. You're putting out word to your associates, Thalia Morena. Go ahead and get this roll with presence sorted. You don't have any conditions that would affect this, so go ahead and just roll flat.
I need to roll high, so I'm gonna use an item, and
Okay.
it's what I'm offering Thalia,
Mm.
which is gonna be the blood and water stained rosary from Clear Springs.
Oh, okay, interesting. Sure. Go ahead and roll.
All right. So that is not enough. That is a 9, and I really need a 10.
Well, yeah, so Thalia will take a while to show up, or she'll want something in exchange for her help. I'm thinking, because we've seen Thalia in town before, I'm thinking she's gonna show up on time, but just she's gonna want something in exchange for her help. So she's already here at the Red Rock and ready to discuss, but she's gonna want to leverage something with you first.
Okay.
Do you want to mark a mask or keep that?
I am going to mark um, a mask because I want
You want the
that
advantage she gives?
advantage.
Fair enough.
And so I'm going to mark. I I hate to do it, but I think I'm gonna have to mark. Where are the masks on here? I'm scrolling everywhere.
Well, you have the little handy navigational bar at the top there to click masks and jump down to it.
Cosmic Passage.
Mm. Okay. Increase your sensitivity by 1, reduce your reason by 2. Diamond Dave slipping his grip a little bit. Down to -1. Very good. Well, Thalia, as a reminder, is present here at the Red Rock, and I believe she was actually present for the little Illuminati meeting you held because she is a broker of secrets. Where are you conversing with her?
I think when I put the word out that I needed to see her, I think she's coming in, and as she's coming in, I am with I'm over in a corner of the cantina, not the dance hall, and I'm with like the sleaziest um merchants of El Paso who own pawn shops and antique stores. Like they're like these are, it looks like the B team of the local business association. But then he's wrapping that up, and he's like, go get out of here. You know what you got to do? Go. Yeah. And
Yeah, she walks over and takes a seat using her hands to smooth out the creases in her black floral skirt, crosses one leg beneath it and gives you sort of a business savvy smile, and says, "Now, Dave, whatever could this be about?"
2 questions, my darling. The first question is my brother's horse Salem. Be honest with me, and I'm not joshing around here. My brother's horse Salem, is that like a real horse or is that unleashed from hell like a revenant horse?
She blinks. Well, to the best of my understanding, it's just a mean fucking horse, David.
Yeah, but I was thinking it can't be that. I know horses. Second question: how do we get our hands on those Ghost Riders of Sawtooth Ridge's horses?
Ain't that those troublesome trio that you already dealt with prior to my arrival in town? I've had to learn about it secondhand. I haven't actually seen the details myself, but I thought that those ghosts had been well laid to rest by now.
Oh yeah, the Rangers, but not the horses.
They did not ride into their final confrontation on their horses.
No,
Interesting.
the one I shot, his horse was tied out up front.
And you haven't seen it since. Most curious.
I
And
would very much like to acquire these horses.
I see. It would be very, very useful, I suppose. And I reckon that you're wanting me to pry around to see if I can find where these horses may have wandered off to.
I think it might just do the trick, Thalia.
She looks at the water and blood-stained rosary you've like slipped over her, and she just like holds it up in her hand, like letting it catch like the light of the sun as it comes through the window, and she says, "This is a most curious town, Dave. I think I'm gonna like it here."
Now, you don't need me to tell you this, but what you're holding in your hand right there is the boiled down essence of Clear Springs.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Might be useful in locating some things. All right then. I can see what I'll dig up. Do you want me to report back to you here or something a bit more clandestine?
No, this is we're in what I like to call in the business survival mode.
I see. Well, I can do my best. I'm going to ask you to do the information move. Even though this will involve her examining things, it's going to be with your presence, mostly just because you're leveraging her and she might be a little bit like a sweet mouthed as well. You get advantage on the roll. She will go searching around for information or leads about where
Super
the Ghost
duper.
Riders' horses went off to.
Yeah, that's super duper. That's a 6 and a 5, and my presence is a 1, I think. Yes.
Oh
So,
shit, that's a
yeah.
12.
Well, yeah.
Since we're in the mastermind confrontation, I will reward 12 pluses with 2 clues. Because mastermind clues just absolutely count as clues for this. We'll get back to you though, because she'll need some time to maybe get a good lead. I'm only staring at Jigsaw right now. Just look at that absolute good boy. I don't want to role play anymore. I just want to watch Jigsaw just loving the scritches he's receiving right now. Look at him. Oh, oh my God. My heart is full. I can't deal with it. Jackie, you swagger on down to the Maxwell Hotel. You're paying a visit to Lady Antonia. This is one of the nicest hotels in the town, as we've talked about before. Lady Antonia is in, I think, so you can get up to her room. What is your approach here? How do you want to enter this conversation with her?
Just gonna walk past the front desk, and the front desk person's probably like, "Excuse me," and it's like, "I know what I'm doing."
Yeah, exactly.
And just walk up the steps slowly, the panther spurs, making sure that they jingle jangle on each step. Um, I'm gonna walk right up to her door and just 1, 2, 3 on the door frame and just lean and wait.
Um, there is a decisive pause before you hear Lady Antonia's voice calling from one of the rooms within. The door is open, Mr. McMahan.
Oh, that shit to himself, that sends a shiver up my spine. And just gonna open up the door and step right on in.
Yeah, you step into her rooms, which we've seen before, though since Harrington's arrival, she has unpacked a bit more. We have all those like hot boxes and luggage things. There's a bit more organization that's been put around here with where those are being stacked, but there's still shit absolutely all over the place. Papers, files, artifacts perhaps, and past one of the little archways that like lead off of like the main little common area into a little tea lounge or something like that. She is seated with a sort of collection of papers in front of her, sipping from a very expensive looking like porcelain cup. And she's flipping through the pages. She has not looked at you. Her eyes remain fixed to the paper, and she says, "To what do I owe the pleasure of your visit, Mr. McMahan?"
Mighty fine digs you got here, m'lady.
Yes, I
Much
find that
nicer.
they're quite quaint. I must admit, though, the comfort is admirable.
I'm here on behalf of the Vigilance Committee of the town of El Paso, offering you, a very important guest to our town, county, state, and country, protective services.
Now, that isn't quite right. She looks up at you and like squints her eyes, and she says, "You're not here on behalf of the Vigilance Committee. You're here on behalf of your brother."
Tomato, tomato, dear lady.
There's a slight upturn of her lip, of the corners of her mouth, but she just nods and looks back at her papers, allowing you to continue with the runway you've been given.
Moving from like that standing, like hand on the belts, is gonna start walking around the room, just kind of looking at the knickknacks and like her trunkage and everything like that. Just gonna say, David has found it well suited that you might be a target for nefarious ne'er-do-wells. And well, seeing as how I am the premier shootist in El Paso, he's seen fit to allow me to watch over you. Figured with the Reynolds doing all of their misdeeds that we could do a little digging around town, and if you need somebody poked and prod a little bit, well, he's gonna look at her. No reason to get those beautiful nails dirty, is it, m'lady?
I am no stranger to getting my hands dirty, Mr. McMahon, though I do appreciate your sentiment, and I understand that though I may not look the part, I have significant experience in the art of combat.
Oh, trust me, I know all about that. Smelt how much you were putting down the other night.
She quirks an eyebrow and she just says, "Well, these days I prefer to utilize the materials with which I have available to me. So, all this to say, Mr. McMahan. How do you reckon we proceed? As I understand it, things are rather dramatically coming to a head. So, I'm here, and frankly, I have a vested interest in the continuance of not only El Paso, but your brother's committee. So, what is it you want from me?
You seem to know all about those Reynolds folks. You seem to have quite a keen finger on the pulse of things happening in and around the city. There's somebody that I'm not too fond of. And they're seeing fit to run me around all over the West, and I'm finding far too watering holes to dip my beak into, so to speak.
You do strike me as a gentleman. She really puts some weight on the word gentleman to know that she does not mean it. You seem like a gentleman who leaves quite an impression in those that he meets. I must imagine that you have all sorts of reputational concerns.
Reputation can be bad or good depending on what saloon you mosey on into. I figure what I'm looking for is a little bit of a job security. I have a feeling that turn of the century comes around, mechanical marvels start making their way. They already got a mechanical horse a couple towns over, showing it off and everything. Reckon the way things are going, these times for people like me are drying up. So, figured, what better place to find myself secured in than the pockets of a very wealthy, very forward-thinking, powerful woman such as yourself. I'm no good without a trigger to pull.
She looks at you for a long moment, taking your bearing, and then there's just a slight creaking of her chair as she shifts her weight from one side to the other. And it's like she's noticing something for the first time. Her eyes narrow slightly. There's a glint of interest. And she stands up and she's looking at you like she's seeing some sort of aura, scanning your outline, looking you up and down, almost like you were an antique to be examined in a museum. And she takes a step towards you and she says, Mr. McMahan, you carry a pair of objects of power.
I may be a piece of shit. And I'm gonna move the jacket so you see the guns and the holsters, and she sees just like the handles. But I'm a piece of shit decked out in gold.
We'll come back to this scene. Harrington, after digging up some graves,
Mhm.
actually specifically the grave of Jimmy Pike, which I should say, you and Graves are probably in this scene because I know Graves wanted to speak to some dead people as well.
Yeah.
So he's digging up the grave of Jimmy Pike, opening the coffin. His recently deceased corpse lies there. Is it known to you all that Jackie shot him dead? I forgot about this part.
Is it?
I announced it to the
Yeah,
town when
you
it
did.
happened.
Okay,
that,
yeah.
that I was
Yeah.
justified because he drew on me first and threatened a vigilance committee
Yep.
and everything.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. Like Harrington made sure everything was smoothed over because
Yeah.
because you can't have duels happening on the regular in town
No.
because the town will just end up just killing itself. So
Exactly.
Now,
yeah, so
as we've learned through the Wounded Knight, ghosts can appear at all hours of the day, but most potently when the blood moon is shining. How are you trying to beckon Jimmy Pike's ghost? And rest assured, he definitely has a ghost because he died during the Wounded Knight. How are you trying to make sure conjure his ghost forward while time is of the essence?
Well, I have a move for that where I can interrogate corpses as side characters, so it's Death's morbid tongue.
Oh, you don't even need to summon his ghost. You can just speak with its
I
corpse.
can
Oh
just talk to his
my.
corpse, and if his
That
ghost shows up, his ghost
I
shows
I
up.
misinterpreted that.
yeah, that's why we
Yeah.
took up the body.
Yeah, my bad. I thought it was just ghost. I thought you were trying to summon his ghost. Okay, no,
I mean, I could
absolutely.
ask his ghost one
No,
question,
no,
but
no,
I
no.
can
It's all
interrogate him like a
good.
side character too, because he
Absolutely.
is one
No,
technically
here's what I'll say
a
then,
dead guy.
Graves. Once you see Jimmy Pike's body, once it's been unearthed and the two of you are standing in the shallow grave, um, you're gonna this is I think this is your first time using this actually. I don't think you've interrogated
I've
a corpse before.
This is my second
The
time because the
second
first
time.
time it failed, and I had to talk to the hanged man
Oh,
instead.
that's right. I remember this now. So it's been a
Yeah,
minute.
it was
Would you
rough.
care to narrate what it looks like for you to awaken his corpse to commune with?
I think it's like very pushing daisies, if you've ever seen that
Yes.
show.
Mhm.
Like, because when I touch a living person, it's just they're dead to some degree at some point. But I take him by like right here and just lift him up. And it almost looks like sensual or affectionate. But as I do, I think his eyes just open.
I'm imagining his eyes. I'm thinking of like in like Nosferatu when we that close up of his
Yes.
eyes and they're all just like
Yes.
fucking like white, milky, and like clouded over.
Yes.
Like they're just a striking visual. Because
You
otherwise
see the vision.
he's a recently deceased corpse. I mean, he doesn't look great, but relatively all things considered intact. Those eyes, man, there's something like unnatural about those eyes. This is
Yeah.
Harrington's first time witnessing this happening too. Um,
And Grace didn't warn you, Harrington. He just took off his gloves and did this and said not a goddamn thing.
I will also remind everyone that like part of like an arc of this show has been Harrington's suspicion and like like acknowledging that Graves is like something inhuman. So as Graves is doing this now, what's going through Harrington's head? Where are we at on that whole like I've investigated the shit out of this guy and like you've understood that he's death for some time, but like this is your first time really witnessing some of his like powers.
God, I'm glad he's on our side. Um, like I think like Harrington is like wheeling and dealing like how can I actually keep Graves in my own coat pocket?
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems like all Graves want is justice for this town,
Mm-hmm.
and that means dealing with the pair with those pair of horse thieves, effectively the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Reynolds.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
His
as long as
eyes.
our
Go
goals
ahead.
align, it's really easy to deal with that.
His eyes
But I'm
open.
keeping watch.
His eyes open. His chest cavity does not fill. Does not, his chest cavity fills with air, but not in the natural way of breathing. It is solely just like an old creaky bellows of some forge, just to fill with air to allow the exhalation of breath with which to speak. It is this creaking sound, just this like. Oh, that dirty son of a bitch.
I know, Jimmy, I know.
What the hell is happening to me?
Sorry to wake you. You'll get to go back soon. I just have a question for you. How did you board the train of the dead?
Hmm. Give me the information move with sensitivity, my friend.
Hell yeah. God bless it. Dropped one.
Hmm.
Where did you go? Where did you go? We'll just roll a different one because it's in the dark. Okay, that is 7, 8, 9. Woo! Sensitivity saved me.
And that's okay. So, oh wow, you rolled
It
a
was a
6.
6.
Damn. We got a clue from this, but you'll also get a complication.
Oh, right.
Uh,
It's Jimmy.
I will say, just as sort of in regards to Jimmy Pike, he does count as a reoccurring side character that gives an additional clue, but it's only on law enforcement, so take that what as you will.
That is such an interesting thing to be like. He's a recurring site. He's dead, but he's being consulted, and he's a recurring site, so he gives extra clues. Yeah, unless you want to like, since this is mostly about like his experiences being dead, I don't think it'll trigger
Yeah.
that extra clue. But he does give extra clues about law enforcement. If
Oh my God.
if you wanted to reframe your question with that in mind, if not, that's totally fine.
I'm trying to figure out how to frame this in a way. Mr.
Uh,
Harrington, do you?
I would reframe it as while you were aboard this train, what did you learn about the Reynolds? Because they are
The criminals.
horse thieves.
Yeah.
They're criminals.
Right. Okay, yeah, I think
Oh,
that's a
talking
better.
to him like a scout, like a man on the inside, being like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, tell us what you've learned, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's like it. Yeah, I
ooh.
love that. I fucking love that
That's
that
really
we're
He's a-
good.
reframing it.
But he's dead and he's still on the clock. Look at this
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah,
Look
it's
at the
still
ball.
on the clock, this poor man. I love it. Yes.
And you thought that I was doing something selfish. I was just looking out for you
Don't
folks.
spin this like you're the hero.
You motherfucker.
I'm making the best out of a bad situation.
Mhm.
I brought him aboard, and he's going to do something for the Vigilance Committee. God damn it.
I
Yeah, I
sent
feel.
that bullet to his beautiful heart as a love letter to you,
Oh
Marshal.
my God. Graves is gonna thank Jackie for this, if it works out. And I think, you know what, instead of like I reframed it, I think like I say that and then Andrew Harrington comes in and is like, hey, this might be more useful. And
Mhm.
so I think it's like that's narratively why Graves is like, oh fuck, this is better.
Mm,
I'm not law enforcement. I don't think of scouts. The
I love
Grim
it.
fucking Reaper.
I love it. Let's take a quick break while I think about these clues I got to dole out. The corpse of Jimmy Pike lurches like up with a sickening just like crunch and pop of ligaments and bones that have been resting and locked up. This is post rigor mortis, but it's still just this sickening kind of crunch as he like lurches forward. He like gives this like rattling, wheezing cough, not a living human cough, but this malfunction of decaying organs that it needs with which to communicate, coughing up like dirt and dust, even though he has not been buried long. Flecks of dried blood just like are spackling it as well. And he like gives another fuck, this hurts. Ugh. One of you got a stick.
What?
I need something to draw with, god damn it.
All right.
Harrington goes and finds a stick.
And with like jerky like motions, very much like Doug Jones's character in Hocus Pocus, the zombie I forget his name, the way he moves, like just begins to like draw in the dirt.
Obsessed.
Yeah.
I love him. Oh my God.
Exactly. Here are the two clues. First of all, because Jimmy Pike is a very good scout, he sketches out for you a very rough drawing of the train's layout, like car by car. Like here's the engine, here's here's the passenger cars. Yeah, like just draws like the layout of the train for you. Yeah, Billy. Thank you, Billy from Hocus Pocus. That's your first clue. The second thing is Jimmy Pike mentions that he hasn't actually seen much of the conductor. That Edward has been confined to the engine room doing a lot. However, there is a strange symbol that he's like clocked, like drawn on like the door to each car. He replicates the symbol for you. He doesn't know what it means, but it's just this odd symbol. So that's your second clue you'll get from him, because he's been doing some scouting for you. However, your complication is going to be that at the end of that, like the corpse, like he like grabs you like firmly by your lapels, Graves, and he says, he grabs Andrew Harrington by the lapels and just says, "That brat killed me, Harrington. What the fuck are you gonna do about it?"
I have plans for Jackie.
I need you to roll the day move, because his corpse is very upset about what's transpired. It'll be with your presence or your composure. Actually, I think composure actually makes more sense here, because you're just trying to be very like level-headed and calm about it. What are you afraid of happening here if you fail to convince Pike's corpse?
I think like just with like Graves waking Jimmy up just enough, and like Andrew providing this basically non-answer, Jimmy Pike is going to become a ghost, as in like a danger for us ongoing.
That's a good one. Go ahead and roll. Go ahead and roll with composure.
Damn. This is totally a non-issue. It's 12.
Incredible. I'll actually give you an extra clue as the added benefit, but go ahead and just narrate this scene, and I think this will also probably put Pike back in the ground.
I think as like Pike has me by the lapels, like he's not letting go. I think just like in general, like Andrew Harrington has a knife for these types of things, and I'm just gonna cut off his fingers. To like he just like lets go. Because he's a corpse, he doesn't feel it, but is like a little bit horrified that I just did this. I think he's just like a little scared of me.
Graves is also horrified, for the record.
As I said, I have plans, Jimmy. Do trust me that I will take care of this in time. But Jackie McMahan is a useful tool, just like a gun is.
And with just these rattling, shaking movements, he lowers himself back into his own grave and will become a still corpse once more. While I'm determining this clue that I'm going to give you, go ahead and just have a little bit of the aftermath scene between Graves and Harrington here.
That wasn't necessary, Marshall.
I would say it was pretty necessary, because I'm not sure if he was going to be able to let go on his own, even if his anger had subsided.
Interesting that you didn't give them the chance. Very interesting.
As I said, I was told to grow up.
Keep working on it.
As you're leaving the scene, Marshal Harrington, you stick a hand in a pocket just idly, and you feel something in there that you don't recall being present. As you put your fingers around it and like pull it out to examine it by yourself, we see that as like the corpse of Jimmy Pike like grabbed you and was like confronting you, he also like slipped you something, like his hand like reached into like your pocket and dropped something in there very discreetly out of view of Graves even. And you open your palm and you find a very strange key that is in your palm that looks to be made out of like black iron with an almost like ethereal shimmer to it. That's a clue.
Of course, you get a weird ghost train key.
Diamond Dave, do you spend the rest of your day mostly just doing your own business here at the Red Rock, waiting for Thalia to get back, or are you going to be doing anything in the interim?
I I there's one clue that I want to a mastermind clue I want to flesh out. And so we see Dave has all these he's behind the bar, he's pouring shots, and there's all these shot glasses there that are kind of piling up. And there's a guy sitting at the bar that he's like questioning, and he's like, um, this should at some point this should jar your memory, Nathan. Nathan Dooley. Nathan Dooley, the man who heard the ghost train whistle in the middle of the night. And so he's pointing shots.
Yeah.
My question, where? Where did you hear this train whistle, Nathan?
I heard it all over town, Dave. I just, it was loud. I mean, fuck. I know that we don't have trains around here, but like, I was up in, I was out in over in. I'm trying to think of a place that has a train. We'll just say Las Cruces. We'll say that Las Cruces has a train. It says Las Cruces, and I heard a train whistle midday. And I was clear across the town from where the tracks were. Them things are loud, Dave.
Here, take a
They're
drink. Take a drink.
oh,
And
sure.
think, just close your eyes. Here, hold this. I know you were a fan of our Hannah. God, God rest her soul. And this
Oh,
is the
God
last
rest her
piece of her
soul.
tarred lace. And I know you like to dance with her, and I want you to have this lace. But I need you to think, close your eyes, hold the lace, feel it, caress it. Here, take a shot. You're standing there and you hear this whistle at midnight. Where's it coming from?
Oh, I like it. All right, I'll ask you to make me the information move with presence. This will probably be the last thing you can tap on this front, though.
9 and a 10. Plus one. I got 9, and then plus one is 10.
Okay, very good. So you'll just get a flat clue. He like closes his eyes, really thinks about it, and he says, "Well, I it was midnight, and I remember hearing it as I was stumbling out of the Golden Spur. I heard it sound like it was coming from the north side. Um, and I thought to myself, damn, mighty queer. There ain't a train around these parts." And he's just like rambling a little bit. And let me look at my clue list here. He says, and so I went. I thought, well, okay, probably north side. Sounded like it was coming from the western bend of Mount Franklin. And well, I mean, wouldn't you know it? Next day, I was talking with a buddy of mine, mentions that he works as the in the mines, right up on the slopes, and he was down in that direction. I asked him, "Hey, did you hear anything? You see any trains or anything like that?" And he said, "No, but it's the damnedest thing." This is me getting a clue in a very roundabout way. He's like basically through this like secondhand conversation, being like, "Yeah, wherever like he heard this train. He thinks it was coming from around the mountain." Talked to a friend of his, and his friend was like, "No, I didn't see any train, but like my mama was buried with this necklace, and I found it just lying on like the side of the mountain while I was walking to town one day." So it's like that is your clue.
That'll be $2.75 for the whiskey.
Wait, I gotta pay for this? And we'll cut the scene there. When we come back to you, I'll give you the clues that Thalia owes you. Jackie, let's resume your scene with Lady Antonia as she has clocked that you are carrying a pair of cursed objects with you. And she says, I have a feeling that if I ask you where you got such things, you were not intending to tell me.
You might find out if you ask nicely enough.
I don't think I can ask as nicely as you would hope I would, Mr. McMahan. So I'll cut it to you like this. Do you understand what these are? Truly, answer me truthfully. These items you carry, these objects of power, do you truly understand their weight?
Their life itself, milady. These two things have the ability to give and take.
Yes, as do
Take.
most firearms.
No, 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 no. You misunderstand. It might be your sensitivities coming from a place where, well, you have to button all your buttons all the way up to your chin. These things bring birth, death, renewal, vigoration, all of it. See, I take and take and take from others, and I show damnation, and it makes me more powerful. But I also give, and I show salvation, beauty, art, culture, history, poetry, song. You name it. The black magic kid's name somewhere out there. Life and death. Balance. There's no better person to be holding these puppies.
I think flaunting this in front of a woman whose life work is dedicated to the collection and security of objects of power is a risky fucking move, Jackie McMahan. I'm going to say it's the day move. What are you afraid of happening here?
I'm afraid she's gonna try and take them, which
That
is
makes
just
sense.
yeah.
Go ahead and roll with presence.
4 + 1 + 1, that's 6.
Mm. She takes another step towards you and she says, that moniker, the black magic kid, it's so gauche, pathetic even. From what I understand, Mr. McMahan, you acquired your little sobriquet through acts of legerdemain, charlatanry, street magic. Do you know what real black magic looks like, Mr. McMahan? I do. I have seen it. I have dealt with it firsthand. Black magic, the kind of witch that weighs the cost of one's soul against the powers of entities beyond your mortal ken. Your sense of black magic is so dreadfully mundane and, dare I say, childish that to throw flash paper in one's face as a distraction is almost an insult to the craft with which you claim the name is originating from. No, no, no. I have seen powerful people who are far less peacock like than you are, despite your head to toe, black clad, swaggering, drunken cock-headedness. You are nothing more than a street performer who has been given a tool that weighs one's own life in a way that is so utterly pointless. Utterly pointless. And you, Mr. McMahan, I neglect to even call you Mr. I should call you youngest McMahan, child McMahan. And she's just going off and like doing the thing where she's pacing you. And just to kind of narrate where the scene will wind up, she says, I realize now that to even contend with you, your elder brother, he really doesn't have his hand on the reins like he think he does. And if he fails to see the threat that stands before him, well, someone will need to take charge of El Paso's security.
I'm gonna go ahead and mark the
Mm-hmm.
Mask of the Past. And we see just like as she's like laying it into him and everything like that, he's smiling and grimacing, and then he just stops and he's just listening to it. And her voice fades and it's like supplemented with a young talking like toddler. Or not even or not toddler, but like schoolyard age, like David, just laying into Jackie, a year younger, and just being like, "You always follow me around. You always try to do this. You don't stay home. You play with my toy." All this stuff like that, and just a young, just scruffy, black-haired Jackie, just staring directly past him at the wall. The next day, we then see Jackie lurking behind a brick wall, and David is playing with a stick and a hoop. And a couple of older boys, about teenagers, come by. One just shoves him roughly into the dirt. The other one puts his shoe on the back of his head and is like placed his face against the mud and everything. And the other one just looks and says, "David McMahan, what a piece of shit. Just like your piece of shit family. This is mine." And just like scoops up the hoop and the stick. No reason for it. You could get it anywhere, and just like runs off with it. And Jackie just glowers. The next day, David's sitting in the room, just staring at the wall, kind of sniffling. And there's a knock on the door. Three knocks on the door frame, and you just see like David get up, open up the door, just like sniffle. And we see a young Jackie, probably about 4 or 5 years old, knuckles bloody, and just covered in like rain and mud, holding the stick and the hoop. And we just see flashes of Jackie coming up and seeing those three boys grabbing some sand and then grabbing a packet of gunpowder and mixing it together and just like throwing it into one's face using a match and lighting it so it like just like goes off and the kid's like, "Oh fuck," and then just grabbing another one and just like hitting, like using stuff like using sticks and like tripping them up and everything, and then finally getting on top of the one that said that just like your piece of shit family, and it's just like grunting as he's like putting all of his force into his fist, punching him, and is like, "Piece of shit, piece of shit," and then looks over and then scoops something up and then just smears horse shit into his mouth and says, "Looks like the only piece of shit is you," and spits and then scoops up the hoop and the stick, and we catch back to him and just holding it out to him.
Mm.
And then we cut back to Jackie, and he's thinking about that and he's smiling as she's just laying into him.
Well, I actually think that with the marking of the mask,
Mhm.
she will not be laying into you as
Okay,
much.
perfect.
Yeah, instead, that is a voice from another realm. But instead, because on 7 to 9, you do it. However, well, rather to say, I'll tell you how you're going to be vulnerable if you do persist with this course of action. Then you tell me whether you're backing down or going through with it. If you do indeed, like, you know, tell all this to Lady Antonia, her whole ball game is like objects of power and cursed items. And so she might develop a very certain interest in you that might be adversarial depending on the circumstances, but not immediately. That is if you tell her, or you can choose to back down and just kind of keep it vague.
I think I'm gonna tell her. Yeah, I'm gonna straight up tell her all of that. Like we see him listing off all those things. It's life, it's death, it's
Mm-hmm.
able to make legends and all that stuff like that. And like he just like looks down kind of like this, and then you just see that smile, the mouth, the grimace, the mustache and everything, and goes, "You want to touch them?"
I think she just smirks a little bit and she rolls her eyes and she says, "Yes, you have the most off putting manner of expressing such invitations, but I would very much like to examine them closer. Do you mind?" And she just like holds her hand out.
Quick little pop up with one so it fly like it's like it just the holsters are well oiled and these guns are well polished and maintained by Jackie, so he like just uses a finger, hooks it into the trigger guard and pops it up so it goes up in the air. Her eyes probably go wide and he grabs it with the other hand, and then twirls it over onto his pinky finger, spins it around, catches it, makes sure that there's no rounds in it, spills them out into his one hand, and then closes it, twirls it around, and points the handle toward her. It's salvation.
Go ahead and take the condition marked by Lady Antonia.
Hmm.
And she'll just begin to examine them. And she kind of like runs her fingers along the engravings. She says, very curious. And you're not going to tell me how you acquired these, are you?
I figure that conversation's much better suited for pillow talk, don't you think?
Oh, Mr. McMahan, you are far too young for my tastes.
Heard that before.
L cutaway. Dave, I owe you some clues from Thalia. And here's what she'll report back to you about. She will have found one of the ghost horses. She found it. It was coming from, someone heard some odd noises from a barn. She did some investigating, and one of the ghost horses has been found. Only one, though. That is your clue. The second clue you'll find is that there is a ranch outside of town where there's a overturned passenger car from a train that's just lying out there in an open field. No one knows how it got there. That's your second clue. And that currently puts us, I believe, at 8 clues. Well, we're about to add the 7th. We're about to add the 8th with the horse.
Yeah.
I'm going to add those.
No, 7.
No, with the horse, it's going to be 8 because it's 7 right now. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, because it overturned past the trigger and then the horse. Yeah. So
the horse has already been added.
You added added that way before I even. That's fine. Okay, so we have 7 clues. 7 clues. Are we feeling like we want to begin winding down the day phase and take a crack at this, or was there any last minute things people were thinking about pulling out? I think 7 clues is perfectly acceptable. If no one else had any ideas for like investigations they were going to conduct.
I think this is something, just like one final clue upon the board, because like this is something I just mark. I think Andrew Harrington will go see Agatha of the El Paso Times.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think we need to really role play this scene out too much, but like I think there is like a sort of conversation in her office, and I think like she is sort of is very busy, but as like Andrew is talking to her about just the various things about the state of El Paso, I think she keeps on pulling out this pocket watch. It's a gold pocket watch with the daisy pattern on it. And like as though she's considering things, and she just says, Marshall, this is some things I found out during the day. And I think we sort of cut back even further towards last night. And I think Andrew Harrington was having a drink with Agatha at some bar and talking about how El Paso has been seeing a lot of action as of late. El Paso is terrified of its own shadows, and those are coming home to roost. And even your secrets, Agatha, they may be revealed. But we can work together. And Andrew presents the gold pocket watch. I'm triggering give and take.
Okay, yeah. If we want to go ahead and read, this is your custom move that you got to change because you lost the cellmate. Would you care to read it?
Your guide was taken away from you. You were told to grow up and to stop being an impenitent child. But what does that mean to a child of one of the gods? What does it mean to take up your birthright and become what your father expected you to be? El Paso will be the first to know your glory, and you will now take over pawns away from this cursed land when the wounded night is over. If and only then survive.
If you and them survive.
Yeah. Yeah. At any time, you can declare a side character has secretly become one of your pawns. Describe how the side character subtly or not so subtly debases themselves before you in the scene, then mark a box.
I think
When you
that's an artifact. You already narrated. I think just to be clear,
yeah,
it's like you declared how you like
yeah,
have manipulated them correctly. Yeah. But
yeah,
it's good.
yeah. Whenever you make a gift of something from your personal quarters to a pawn, it will do exactly as you say, no questions asked. If you demand information from them, it may become an informative clue at the keeper's discretion.
Yes, so you get to mark one of those boxes. Yeah. Agatha Edward has been in your pocket this whole time. Marshall, you've manipulated her deftly. Now you're demanding information from her. Sorry if I missed this in your little narration, but what information were you demanding?
I am sort of demanding information about the Reynolds, about what they've been sort of requesting as of late throughout the town, what they are doing in preparation for derailing the tape.
Well, they haven't been seen in the town since the siege. I mean, after you guys repelled them, their offices were abandoned and packed up. But like, so they haven't been around. Like, clearly they've gone to ground. But prior to that, I mean, Agatha has back issues of Isabella's movement since her arrival in El Paso. Let me get a clue for you here.
Yeah.
Prior to the siege of El Paso, Isabella, who had previously only been like buying up land for the sake of the railroad that she was promising to bring through town, curiously obtained a property unrelated to that. It seemed like her name was listed on a deed for a piece of property in El Paso that has nothing to do with the train business. I'll leave that intentionally vague. But she had bought some kind of property along the riverfront. So that is your clue. That does bring us to 8. Do we feel like we want to take a crack at answering this question? Do we feel like our day phase has wrapped suitably? All right. Let's go into the the dusk. And before we do anything else, let's talk about this. The question is, how can we board the train of the dead? You will have to board it from a location that gives you enough time to hopefully disable it before it reaches El Paso. So keep in mind that if it's going to be boarding the train, you have to board it well in advance of it coming down this way. We have 8 clues now. Other graves in El Paso have recently been dug up. One of the ghost horses was found. Rough drawing of the train layout. Strange symbols drawn on each car. A strange key made of black iron with a shimmer to it. That the train whistle was it's heralded by like items of the dead being found. Overturned passenger car from a train outside of El Paso. Isabella having bought a riverfront property. Who has a theory that they want to start kicking us off with? Or do we need a break to think it over?
I think I'm ready to theorize if folks are ready.
Go ahead.
Since Diamond Dave has been sort of handling on this regard, we're going to need sort of something to cross the threshold of the dead. And so far, since we're not dead for the most part, we're going to have to use ghost horses. So Diamond Dave has been working on that. In terms of just like I think this like confirming like the dead can board the train pretty easily. Like this is why Agatha Edwards and like their crew have been like sort of digging up graves, just like build up their armies and whatnot. So,
oh, you mean the Reynolds that have been digging up graves?
Yeah. God, I keep on getting like the Edwards mix because there's Edwards the last name and Edwards the first name.
Oh, so like you're saying that like because of all like the graves have been dug up for the purpose of like of things. So like, so here's the thing though, like if they've been dug up, I mean, we haven't really seen like corpses moving around before. We've seen ghosts. So I'm like, what is the relevance of them digging up corpses if the ghosts already just would already end up on their
Mm.
train?
Okay, I can support that if unless you have like a solid
Uh,
yes.
you come in and like collaborate with me.
Yes. I think the reason is because some of these corpses are much older than the Wounded Knight, and not
Oh,
everybody comes back. And so it's like disturbing the grave, like trad horror movie
they're
shit.
only the graves of people from like more than 6 years ago because it's only the
Yes.
ghosts of people who died in the last 6 years. Okay,
Yes.
makes
It's
sense.
older graves, so that way they're building up their ghost army.
Those
Like,
ghosts would have
Mhm.
already passed on though, so is it like they're
oh,
yeah? Because like there's like they pass
Yeah.
right.
on
Yeah.
as when the train reaches destination. So it's like so they're doing something with bodies that are older than this current wounded knight,
Yeah.
which is that is a solid angle.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I have a worse idea.
Mhm.
What?
The train is fueled by the bones of the dead
Oh,
because
they're
it's
using it as
imbued with their
fuel.
fucking spirits.
Mhm.
Like the remnants of their spirits that are in the bodies. Is
Oh,
that how
like
they're
the
fueling the
vestiges of
train?
what was left behind.
The
They're using the
vestiges of
bodies
the
as as
soul.
fuel as well. In addition to like
Yes.
the soul overclocking. Okay, cool. That's a nice contextualized clue of just
To
being like,
help
oh,
overclock it.
they've been digging up the trains. This thing is powered by bones and soul.
Yeah.
Nasty.
I think just the rough drawing of the train's layout is just showing us like where we're supposed to like hop onto the train.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think the strange symbols drawn on each car is just the sort of way that the Reynolds are intending to break the train just a little bit, because having it go really, really fast is not enough to derail it. Having like sort of the symbols erased is. And I think we've seen already one car that has been overturned by the train, which is like, why is the
Oh.
third?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think like even though we could get like on the outside of the car, like the train still like has defenses against us. So
Mhm.
like we would need like a key to get inside, which I
Mm-hmm.
do have.
Or into the engine room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So far, I just
And
wanted to check in with Wes and Daniel if the two of you are having any
yeah.
thoughts.
I
I see your
like
thinking faces.
I like the wherever the train whistles, items of the dead is found, and I think with that we we can kind of map out like the route of the train based
Mhm.
on things that people have found and how far
Mm.
away have they found them. You know, you found your dad's pocket watch where, you know, things like that. We can kind of map out. But Wes, did you have something for the river? I've got one idea for the river.
It's the getaway point. Just like with any heist, there's a
Ah,
secondary meeting point after the heist where you meet up and everybody ditches. So that's the thing is that you gather, somebody goes off with the goods, somebody goes off for like the heat to follow them, and then the other people go to ground and you wait till everything dies down and then you come back
So that's
together.
the end point. That's
That's the
like
end point. The
okay,
riverfront is the end point.
so it's like okay, using that and what you decided with the whistle, it's like okay, well we know it's gonna like here's their intended end point, like it, so we can map a route roughly. I'm gonna add a detail here that I just thought of to this whole like the items at the train whistle because I was just like, well, why? What's the deal there? And I thought, wait a second, if they're throwing old corpses into the engine, the whistle is literally just like the steam and shit being blown out through the engine. So it's just like occasionally the corpse they throw in there, just like they have belongings on them, like necklaces and shit. So just sometimes those belongings are ejected from the engine because they're using them as extra fuel. So it's a little bit of just like maybe they're a little like scorched and burnt as well. So it's like a little added sense of like, okay, that would explain it. So whenever they like pull the engine thing, sometimes things like are discharged from it, which would definitely explain like why it's along the intended route.
I love
Um,
that.
Wes, did you have additional thoughts here?
No, I mean everything. Other graves in El Paso have been dug up. Yeah, well, the ghost horses make sense. The layout, strange symbols is like markings of like what's on what's each and everything
Mm-hmm.
like that. Strange key. Yeah, where the
Engine
train
room
whistles
key.
out of the
Yeah.
dead is found. I like that of like how the whistle is like the runoff of like items of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, kind of. I think return passenger of car from a train, all this stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's pretty sound. I have some theories for why Lady Antonia is so involved because, like you said, she's such like an OOP, object of
Mhm.
power focused person that like I'm just like thinking like this is headcanon. This has nothing to do with
Sure,
the
yeah.
ball thing, but I'm just like, is the train itself an object of power that she's trying to
Yes.
fucking shack
Oh,
up and grab? Yeah,
Oh,
like she's yeah,
fuck
interesting.
yeah.
yes. Oh, that's so
Interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Interessante. That's a
so
fun thought.
There's no reason for her to be here otherwise. It's just she's out of the goodness of her heart.
Oh, no,
The
I mean, like,
fucking
it's even
yeah.
fucking canonical that in her write-up, it's like, yeah, she's like she was there because like she was tracking the movements of the corset, but
Hmm.
she had like heard about the wounded knight, so it's like she knows
mm-hmm.
these things, so it's like yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
This is solid. So and this was a pretty easy theory because it's like only a couple of these are applicable to like how you board it. The rest are just cool context. But that uses all of them, so it's going to be a +2 with the roll. Who wants to take a stab at it?
23, not me.
Well, I can roll since I've been
Yeah.
rolling decently.
Okay, Harrington.
Get it,
2d6
Marshall.
+2.
That is a 10.
Incredible. That is a 10. The theory is correct. You have the opportunity to board the train of the dead, to prevent it from derailing, to deal with the Reynolds. Let's go through the remainder of the dusk phase. Jackie did not have a rival get introduced. We came very close. We did not get a rival introduced during the scene, so you're good. Let's talk about the wounded
I've got
knight.
my move.
Oh, yes, that's right. Which one is that again?
It's just my bar, you know.
Oh, yes.
And I'm not going with a clue, but I am going with an item. And we see kind of a dejected secondhand store salesman pay up his tab with something very odd. It's like a and as he's leaving, uh, Diamond Dave is coiling up this rope, and he tells Flapjack, "Get this to Jackie." And so, Jackie, I am giving you the rope that hung Edward Reynolds.
Holy shit. That's fucking rad. I love it. Let's talk about the wounded knight. We're going to do the holiday from El Paso. Just across the Rio Grande into Mexico is the town of El Paso del Norte, miraculously unaffected by the season of the Wounded Knight. How do residents of El Paso try to sneak across the river and into the other town during the Wounded Knight? What do the residents of El Paso del Norte do with them if they are spotted?
I'm going to say one way is Diamond Dave's smuggling ring, where he smuggles stuff back and forth from El Paso to El Paso del Norte. Is that a two-parter, or can I stop there?
It was how they try to sneak across the river, and then also like what do the residents of El Paso del Norte do with him if they are spotted? But you don't have to answer that second one if you don't have an idea for it.
Okay, I'm gonna leave. I'll let somebody else do that one.
I think I don't think there's like a standard way that they're handled when they're spotted, but I do think there are a few folks who regularly try to extort residents of El Paso when they want to come into El Paso del Norte for holiday. They're like, "Well, you can come in for a price."
I think some El Paso residents try to take refuge in the church across the river, and I think just because of the superstitions just so strong about bringing anyone in, I think the actual priest of that church rejects them. Very interesting thing.
for a fee, welcoming people in, and these kind of other traditions, smuggling rings and everything like that. But for the folks of El Paso del Norte, they come across someone from El Paso that seems to be carousing, getting in a little bit too comfortable in El Paso del Norte. Uh, they have a manner of luring them someplace, getting them nice and proper drunk, then conking them over the head, stealing their belongings, and then putting them in a coffin and sending them down the river, essentially, while they're alive. Just like putting the bodies in the coffin down a river, and hopefully they survive. And it's just a lesson.
I love it. Moving forward. I think I have an idea for what you all will be doing during the upcoming night phase. Though I will ask if there's anyone who does not intend to board the ghost train, what you instead wish to be doing. Seems like everyone's boarding the ghost train. Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Do we have any lingering Janus Mask prompts? No? All right. Let's dole out the unseen, and then we'll take a break. This may very well be the last unseen. This is, in fact, the last unseen. And I think tonight, I'm torn. I either want to do the Lost Crusade Stagecoach or I want to do the Tumbleweed. I think I want to do the Tumbleweed. Tumbleweed's very like Western. It feels kind of like thematically appropriate. So I'm going to do the Tumbleweed. The first prompt will be for chaotic. Second will be for B. Third will be for Wes. And the last will be for the man who created Ghost of El Paso altogether, Mr. Daniel Qualls. Let's take a break. The night phase. The blood moon shines over El Paso once again. The season of the wounded knight has come to its head. But first, the tumbleweed. Drying and dying all day long in the hot Texas sun means this tumbleweed is ready to hit the dusty trail. This weed begins as a titan among its peers, nearly 6 feet tall. Chaotic, just as the sun goes down, a stiff wind blows, causing the tumbleweed to break free from the roots that anchor it. What beautiful landscape does the weed first encounter on its long nighttime journey?
As the tumbleweed is finally reaching maturity, just full of seeds and ready to spread its out across the land, we see various other plants of the desert also flourishing. We see cacti that are finally coming into bloom. We see sort of the little creatures scurrying about as the moon begins to rise with this reddish glow, like looking for various bits of prey to catch, little insects and whatnot. And it all is just generally quiet. It is peaceful. It is wonderful.
The sharp, shrill whistle of a train pierces the night. The ghost train, black as midnight, hovering along fog and mist, rips down through the landscape towards El Paso. A group of riders astride spectral steeds, galloping towards the black train. All 4 of you. Now, I will note, only 1 ghost horse was found. So my headcanon is that you had to kill 3 other horses and get their ghosts ready. So I don't know what that is for sure, but that's what I'm thinking. Either way, ghost horses are carrying you with unholy speed. As we put the spotlight on each of you, I'd love to see how you've prepared yourself to board the train and what thoughts are going through your head. Jackie, you lead the posse, not because you're the leader, but because you're the most cocksure bastard present. What do we see, and what are you thinking?
Jackie's pretty nimble, but also knows that Jackie's favorite way of hopping on a train, Jackie might have done a couple of jobs or two back in the past or anything. But the easiest way to get to the front of a train or to stop a train is to go over the top and everything. But with the group that he's with, he doesn't get to have so much fun hopping from train car to train car and all that kind of fun stuff. So Jackie is going to start from the back and work his way up. How do you dig yourself out of the shit? One shovelful at a time, and just go car by car and just put them down. Put up whoever tries to stop them, putting them down. But you do see that Jackie is wearing, for this evening, is wearing all black, of course, again, standard, but is wearing like not really fancy, like normal, like clothing that you would see Jackie wear with like the fringe jacket and everything, is wearing pure, just like grave robber. You're not up here because you blocked the screens. There's a reason why I put you back down. Just it just looks like a grave robber, just a dingy black clothing. Um, with a white bandana to put over the, which you see Jackie, like as they're getting closer, Jackie does put the bandana up even though you don't need to, but it's just like old habit. And you can hear some jingling, and it's not on the spurs, but you see that there are hooks on Jackie's jacket, which if anybody would ask what they're for, Jackie's like, don't ruin the trick, all right, just wait and see. Just that kind of thing, and just wait and see. Stop trying to ruin the magic.
Andrew Harrington, we shine the spotlight on you.
I think Andrew Harrington is a little bit disappointed in Diamond Dave only getting one ghost horse. Because, well, that means they had to kill his own goddamn horse. The best horse in town. Just God, and it's only going to be good for this wounded knight. Damn, terrible, awful,
incredible. Diamond Dave.
Not even Jackie killed Salem.
No,
all
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Like Jackie was like, Jackie was like, Jackie made Salem watch him kill another horse and said, "You remember?"
Oh, this ghost horse leads us to the other ghost horse. So I think we see Diamond Dave very uncharacteristically dressed, more like his brother, wearing like a black duster, and he's got his bandana as well. And I think so. There's two differences. One is his clothes, and then two, I think he's got this like, I don't want to call it crazy eye, but he's got this real look of determination that we don't usually see Diamond Dave when he's in the Red Rock Cantina.
And lastly, Graves.
Graves is not dressed any particular way. I think sometimes it forgets it has a body, but it has left the gloves at home. It has taken the two spring-loaded Derringers that I've kept since the goddamn beginning of the game and holstered them a lot like Jackie's two guns, just as sort of a totem almost for its sibling war. And the ghost horse has been like saddled and tacked with Blackheart Vermilion's stuff. Like, and even though Graves isn't leading the charge, it's super close to, if when we're close to the train, it is like close enough you could reach out and touch it. Like, just totally silent this entire time.
B. A few hours later, across the landscape, half the weed is fed to a campfire by a lone rider. What urgent matter distracts the rider just before the rest of the weed is given to the flame?
This lone rider has his horse tied up just a little behind him, and he's trying to get this fire started. And then he hears a rattle and a chuff and a whinny. He turns around, hey, motherfucker! There's goddamn horse thieves. And he lets go of the tumbleweed to handle them.
The horses keep pace with the black train like a classic outlaw heist. You're riding alongside it as it roars in the landscape faster than any train should reasonably have the right to go. But nonetheless, you can board it. How are each of you getting on board the ghost train?
I know how Diamond
Because
Dave's getting on board. He's he's got one hand white knuckled holding the bridle of the ghost horse, as the other hand, um, and we can see a trimmer in it, grabs the railing of the train, and he's thankful that it's substantial, right? It's not just, smoke. And as he pulls himself off the ghost horse onto the steps, we definitely hear him say, "I'm getting too old for this shit."
isn't like Dave just a year older than Jackie?
Irish twins, yeah.
Yeah, that's a reference to White Mountain Rescue, Hank.
Did you say that you just got on a car, or did you get on the rear of it?
I thought we were going for the rear.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to clarify. I think you see, like, as you're like grabbing on and everything like that, you see Jackie goes ahead and make sure their stuff is not holding onto the reins, but the ghost horse is just going and like making sure that like grabs the saddlebag that he put over it and then puts the saddlebag over his shoulder, and tightens the bandana, and then you see just stands up on like crouches on top of the saddle, and then in a moment just kind of like gives a little bit of like not holding, like looking at David, and then hops on, and just goes like just goes like that to the ghost horse, and you see it peel off, and then looks over at David, and David says, "Getting too old for this." And then Jackie's leaning up against the back and then checking the cartridges in the cylinder of the revolvers, and looks over and goes, "I'm just a year younger than you, asshole." And then like holds up damnation, and looks at him and goes, "Ready?"
I think Andrew Harrington will go last.
Oh,
Just
that's
because,
fun.
yeah,
You
just
little,
make sure that everyone else gets on board.
you little, little
You,
squirrel.
yeah. You're all in the rearmost car of the train,
Mm-hmm.
barely able to catch up to it with the speed it's getting. And you stand before the door to the backmost car. Who's opening it? Who's going through it?
Probably
That's
Andrew, because he has the
Andrew, please
key.
go ahead.
Oh, you
Yeah.
got the
Was
key.
that the key to this car or was that the key to the engine?
I think, well, we mentioned it was, I mentioned it was the key to the engine. I don't think that ever actually
Oh, we
got
didn't like
settled
lock it into the
on.
theory. Okay, just okay.
Nope.
So
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So we're
it's like a key that lets us into
into the
the
train.
train.
Got you. Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Understood. Very
because
good.
like yeah, like sometimes like just to make sure like the dead, like I think the dead get like these type of keys to be let on.
Well, here's the
So
thing, right? So it's like we've seen in the past the Reynolds, like 48 years ago, boarded this train and like robbed it. And I
mm,
actually think the locks, they look new. Like
Oh,
mm,
it is something that's like been like retrofitted onto the train. Like they've added it to it since then for its own defenses.
amazing.
Um, you put the
yeah.
key in the lock, you turn it, you open it, and then there's gunfire. You barely evade a bullet. Inside, a group of ghostly outlaws and soldiers under the Reynolds' command are holding the rear car. Sergeant Hammett, who we briefly saw and was only repelled from the siege of El Paso and not destroyed, barks out orders to open fire, to give those dogs what it's worth. What's happening next? Who's trying to handle this? Jackie McMahan, what do you do?
I think Jackie's like against the wall, and there's just like rifle shots just peppering the door and everything, and just looking at everybody else and goes, "All right," and then takes the white bandana off, and then like when there's a clear like where they're reloading, is gonna hold it in front of the door, and then put the pistol behind his back, and then hold up a hand showing it to David, and is gonna wave it like a white flag, and gonna step in the door and say, "All right, fellas. Looks like you got us. There's clearly more of you than there are of us, and we really underestimated the situation. Terms?"
Sergeant Hammett, who is a reminder, is very large in his 50s with a handlebar mustache. He has a long black wool coat and a bowler hat. And at the missing stump of his right arm, there is a spectral glowing arm there as he just sniffs and says, "No terms, I'm afraid. Mr. Reynolds sends his regards." And they begin to wind up this like Civil War style chain gun thing, just like and it's beginning to
Yeah.
open fire. But
Jackie's just gonna say, "It's always this way," and is gonna throw the bandana like towards the camera, pivot around the camera, and it turns into a flock of doves. The bandana turns into a flock of doves. Slow motion is just going to. We're getting John Woo in here. It's just gonna like shoot the hand of the dude with shoot the shoulder of the dude with the crank up machine gun so that he pivots around, and so like it starts shooting and bullets just go right next to Jackie and like pepper around Andrew Harrington and David on the other side of the door. Doesn't actually hit them, and just pivots around and shoots out the side of this ghost train. And
Okay.
then immediately the other hand is going to start firing at the rest of
Well,
yeah.
that's certainly what you hope to have happen for
I
sure.
hope is what happens.
What are you afraid of happening here?
I'm afraid that my gun's gonna jam. That it's just gonna be all this pomp and circumstance for nothing.
Yeah, it's worse than that. They're gonna gun you down before the fight's even really begun. Unfortunately, this is a roll with composure, my friend, because you're using your gun and your legerdemain to distract them, which is a -1 for you. Do you have an item you're going to mark for advantage?
Yeah. I'm gonna just say David's pair of metal dice have been attached like a necklace around Jackie. And Jackie has like a lot of superstition and like luck totems and like good
Oh,
luck
I'm into
charms
it.
and everything like that. And so yeah, this is gonna make sure, yeah, it
Go
all
ahead.
goes okay.
Yeah, go ahead and make the roll. That's flat -1. Oh, advantage -1 because you didn't have a disadvantage. Yeah.
That's in 6 plus 2, 1. So 6 plus 2 minus 1, that's a 7.
7. Absolutely. Your narration was already pitch perfect and badass as hell, so I don't need to expound on it further. But as for a complication you're going to take on this, you actually do catch a few strays. So you actually get shot in the leg. Like as like the bullets are ricocheting, one of them passes through your upper left thigh. A little spray of blood hurts like a motherfucker, but you're pretty sure it missed the bone, so nothing shatters inside your leg.
I'm going to mark the cosmic passage.
Makes sense.
Increase my sensitivity by 1 and reduce my reason by 1. So I'm a -2 reason, but 3 sensitivity.
Holy shit. Then in that case, you don't even get shot. Go ahead and cap out the narration to how you resolve this obstacle.
Yeah, it's just once again like following the action like it's a modern day Hollywood or John Wood cinema. Like that fucking Gatling gun shoots out like sides, the walls of this back rear car, to where the camera falls along those bullets, and we get like a profile shot, almost like it's the hallway fight from Old Boy. And we just see a nice little extended cut action sequence of Jackie going through the car, hopping over boxes and shooting a guy, taking one of his shotguns and just leaning it up against a cart, shooting another guy where he bumps into a guy. Jackie grabs him by the back of the jacket, twirls him around, and just by luck and happenstance, the shotgun gets caught on like a little hook that's in this little storage rear cart, and the shotgun goes off and takes the guy's head off. Just like a lot of like stuff like that where it's very domino style luck. Just putting like taking somebody's lever action revolver, sticking it through the back of the jacket to duck this guy down to give him a little bit of cover. So this guy's getting peppered with while this jacket like this his jacket's being held up by this rifle. This guy's getting peppered and he just shoots lever shoots four guys. It clicks, it's out, and he just tosses the whole thing, jacket and all, with the guy inside of it to the side. And then finally coming up to fucking what's his name? I can never remember.
Oh, Sergeant Hammett.
Sergeant Hammett, to the point where it's just like to the point where Jackie has run out of bullets in Salvation and Damnation. They end up back in the holster. This guy has a tomahawk and he tries to swipe at Jackie with it. Jackie like pops his elbow up when he tries to hit him, so he goes up too wide and then hits him in the side of the ribs. You can hear his ribs crack and he drops the tomahawk. Jackie grabs it with his left hand, and with another knife behind him, stabs him in the gut, slashes across so his intestines spill out, push him to the side, and then throws the tomahawk into the sergeant's head. Um, and just is standing there and turns and looks over the shoulder and says, "Clear."
Wes. The remainder of the weed becomes snagged in a bit of errant barbed wire for several hours before a fleeing animal knocks it loose. What terrible fate is the animal fleeing from?
The tumbleweed is just tumbling, moving, and it picks up speed and picks up speed as it hears, but it feels the sensation of pounding feet. And pepper, like just like peppering sounds, vibrations, and everything. It knows that something's coming. Um, and then we hear dogs in the distance, just barking, a couple of hound dogs. And what we see is a fox bounding from a nearby farm as there's just gunfire peppering all around it, and it's dodging and then getting into like burrows and then popping back up. And then it sees the tumbleweed, just kind of like rolling along and everything like that. And just animal pure instinct is just like catches over and is like, that's moving. That's the way I need to go. Like downhill, get away from whatever this is. Get away, get away, get away. Um, to the point where it's like starts bounding up towards the tumbleweed. You can see there's a farmer and his son, and he's like, "Get it, boy, get it! Get it!" And the boy is like carrying ammo and has like a rifle, but also has a couple of dead chickens because the dogs were trying to get into them as they were dead, and so he's trying to like carry too much stuff. And the father's just shooting wildly with a shotgun. And the fox eventually catches up to the tumbleweed, and about to like use the tumbleweed to like pounce on top of it, to tumble into it and everything, and then it's about to leap, and then the fox's head is just gone in a red mist.
The passenger cars, which, as we've seen in the past, are supposed to be filled with the apathetic dead waiting their destination. But these passenger cars stand eerily empty, vacated, moved forward ahead of the train. They are fuel, not passengers now. As you're proceeding forward, a sudden listing of the entire train almost throws you all to the side as the train comes around a bend with hellish speed. The bend is not severe enough to derail it here, but it's enough to cause you feel it one the train to list up and lift off to the side slightly, causing carts and other things to just toss to the side, throwing you have to catch your bearings. And when things right themselves again, another blow of that infernal whistle, there is a ka-tunk of something heavy landing on the roof as you're proceeding forward. A moment silence and pause, and then a dozen spectral ropes and nooses launch themselves through the walls, going for each of you as the spectral horror of Edward's hanged man form drops down, phasing through the ceiling, crouching in the middle of the corridor, looking at you with baleful hatred. He sends these ropes for you all. What do you guys do?
Is there one he's hanging from?
No, he's wielding a length of rope that has now like turned into multiple and caused this like spider-like network of nooses to launch themselves, to grab your wrist, your ankles, to secure themselves around your neck, to strangle you and secure you from moving forward.
I want to reach up, let one grab my wrist and yank.
What's your intention here?
Yank him down with us.
Yank him down with you. Okay, that's how you're going to deal with that.
That's how I'm going to deal with it. This motherfucker has been a problem for me, and he needs to stay dead.
I'm into this. We can say Graves, you take point on this one first before anyone else necessitates a roll. It'll be the night move with sensitivity. What are you afraid of happening here?
I'm afraid that this mortal form will keep me from being able to actually banish him, and he's just going to sort of use me as fuel.
Yeah, well, I think it's worse than that. This would destroy the host, but you are gonna get actually like dragged up through the rest of the train and sent to the engine where you will be fuel, but so will death.
Ruh-roh.
The essence
Okay.
of death thrown into the engine is a bad thing indeed. Now, because you are the thing that was Bartholomew Graves, I'm giving you disadvantage.
Of course. Beautiful. Gorgeous. I love this. I assume, what is this with?
Sensitivity.
Thank God. Okay. Okay, this is fine. That's still a 12. It was
Holy
2 5s and a
shit.
4.
Holy shit.
I know.
Okay, yeah. I mean, your intention was to get him like thrown down by pulling the right thread. So you do as you intended. Narrate the scene. Describe what that looks like, and then I'll let you know what the additional benefit that comes with this is.
I think Chaotic put something really interesting in the chat. So I think that as Graves reaches up, just open-handed, and lets that noose, and he grabs the rope and yanks down, and Edward is yanked down, and it lands with this weirdly solid thunk. Doesn't really hurt him, but he does stand back up, maybe. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But he does yank him down, and Graves looks at Jackie's squirrely little ass and kicks Edwards towards him.
Yeah. Here's the advantage that comes of your 12 plus is you have like pulled the ropes in such a way to actively like get him now bound up in his own ropes, like caught up in them as he's struggling and pulling and like roaring with his rasping, destroyed throat, halfway between his horrific hanged man form and Edward Reynolds. He is all bound up, and you can see the swollen, reddened flesh of his neck. He looks up at Jackie, and he just, with eyes full of rage, just says, "You can't stop this train."
Jackie's just gonna lasso the noose around his throat and then turn around and looking right at the marshal is gonna start pulling on it. Just like pulling on it and then just like pulling the rope of the noose down so it's just forcing its way around him and just gurgling and strangling him and just looking at the marshal. And then just one final tug, just pull it.
And Diamond Dave says, nobody has said anything about stopping this train. We're stealing it.
And then that's when I'll fucking I'll wait for as a button, just tug.
Mm-hmm.
Just let him sit with that of like, we're not destroying it, we're stealing it.
I love it. Harrington, as the group is proceeding up the train, a thought occurs to you. the old marshal was probably a passenger on this train, now long since departed. What sign do you think you see of his former ride on this train?
I think because since I became a new marshal badge got made for me. I think like left in like one of the seats there is an old Paso marshal badge in it.
Interesting. Daniel, just as the sky begins to show first light, the last bit of the weed falls down a gully into a muddy patch of water where it begins the long process of degrading through enough to drop its seeds. What will happen before the sun comes up to prevent this weed from leaving seeds here in the muddy ground?
We hear the steam whistle. Above the gully, there's a train track, and a train is flying through the night on its way to Amarillo. And the brakeman in the caboose is taking a break, and he's smoking a cigarette. Before he goes back into the caboose, he flicks the cigarette, and it spirals into the air. And it just so happens that it lands on this what's left of the tumbleweed, and the sparks catch, and it's a little burst of flame in a muddy gully.
The closer you get to the engine car, you find passengers who have not yet been expended, but they are lined up, apathetically waiting to be shepherded forward to the engine. There are familiar faces here among countless other unfamiliar. Jimmy Pike is here, glaring at Jackie McMahan, but not saying anything. When you reach the engine car, though, inside, the hellish heat of an engine running far too hot, burning with soul flame, it silhouettes the figure of Isabella Reynolds, who is desperately, furiously working the controls. She spins around, an almost maddened glare in her eyes, weapons drawn, begins to shout and fire at you as a last-ditch effort to hold you back long enough. El Paso is in sight. She unloads her gun until the clip is expended, and she curses, throwing it off to the side. Harrington, what do you do?
I think Harrington just so very casually and pretty callously takes out the old Marshal's Lamont revolver. El Paso will never be yours.
I don't give a shit about El Paso, you piece of shit.
That's the issue. And I shoot her dead.
Takes off. Yeah, I think the bullet holes like catch her, coughs up blood, and I actually think she like looks down at her bullet wounds and just coughs up a Edward, stumbles and falls back into the engine itself with an eruption of like flame. It's like gauges and pipes bursting and howling. Diamond Dave, what are you doing during this confrontation?
As she's going backwards into the thing, I say, Lady Antonia sends her regards.
Incredible. Hell yeah.
Andrew looks a little bit disgusted at that.
Mm-hmm. The engine is running hot, too hot. El Paso is in the distance. The whistle blows of its own accord. You need to stop this train. What do you do?
Jackie's gonna stride forward with the noose and kind of looking at her smoldering corpse and everything. Is she still like piled up, or did she fall into the furnace?
I like the idea that she's like kind of like half in, half out.
Half in, half out, and everything like that. Jackie's gonna be like, "Excuse me. Also, Eddie, sent some final words for you. It was a, but what else is new? And I'm gonna use I'm gonna start trying to pull the brake. I'm gonna start trying to pull the brake, and I'm gonna try to tie the brake off, like try to get a little bit of tension so there's support and everything, so that it doesn't like so there's more than just my arms behind it. And like so the with the noose, with Edward Reynolds' noose, I'm gonna try to use that rope to kind of like tie around it and everything.
I would
Indeed.
also like to add, um, to tie up to tie the brake in place. Diamond Dave's has some very golden chains that could help keep them in place.
Indeed you do. Indeed you do.
I think there's a moment where you come over and like Jackie's grabbing it and it's like squealing and screeching. He goes, "I don't need your help, David." And then starts trying to pull it, and it's like, and it's giving Jackie some issues, and goes, "Stop looking at me while I'm working." And then the golden chains clink and like around, and goes, "Fine."
The train, screeching all the way, begins to slow. Graves, the engine burning hot, the scream of distant souls protesting against the slowing train. What do you do, Death, to quiet the engine enough to slow this thing to a halt?
I am going to mark the blood-soaked portal, destroy this form because it's limiting me. So I am going to let me just double check something really quick, like um yeah, okay. Uh I've got those spring-loaded derringers. Just take one out, look at everybody, like, I'll see all of you eventually. Right in front
Jesus
of all of
Christ.
you. And because I need to actually be what I am to stop this fucking train and yank the souls from the flames and not become fuel myself.
Like a candle, the engine is snuffed out by hands unseen, and the train slows to a stop. And that is the night phase.
Oh, hell, I got brains on my hat.
The train was stopped. The Reynolds dealt with. I will ask now each of you. We will go in whichever order people feel like speaking up in. I'd like you to narrate a short epilogue for your character. Whoever would like to go first, be my guest.
I've got one. So we see Diamond Dave in a pretty fancy office, and we can tell from the flags behind the desk. One is the state flag of California, and one is the United States. We can see that he's in someplace official, and he's dressed all in a black tailored suit. And there's other people there too, but Diamond Dave is center. And so the man behind the desk is Governor Perkins of California, and he's just signed off on this El Paso Pacific train line, and Diamond Dave just kind of leans towards the governor and says, "We're going to make a lot of money, sir, a lot of money."
Jackie McMahan, always finding ways to get ahead, especially when doing the right thing. When you do the right thing, you should be rewarded. When you do the wrong thing, you should be doubly, or when you do the wrong thing, you should be rewarded. When you do the right thing, you should be doubly rewarded. So Jackie went ahead. Salem like trots up probably to the train, takes Maria's body, because Edward was a ghost, of course. And using the noose and her body, like drags her into town, puts her in front of the marshal's office, and is like, "I've got a bounty to collect." Um, uh, and uses the money or share of portions from that bounty. We'll share the bounty and everything like that with the rest of them, but uses that portion to get a new wardrobe to go for sheriff of El Paso proper, running for an election on sheriff. Probably an election coming up where maybe is Dudley Wainwright still alive?
I think so, yeah.
So probably like Dudley Wainwright would have been like another feasible option for to run for sheriff and everything in the town because Harrington's doing all that stuff. But Jackie is going to run on a platform in this town of this town's dying and it needs a little magic. And Jackie McMahan looking out for the little guy and everything. And it's just like going around and like giving people money, doing all the things of like you're not supposed to as a mayor, you're a sheriff. You're supposed to keep everything just keep the peace. But you'll see like Jackie is like also just like leading the charge on being like somebody's breaking the law. Okay. And like we'll step up and like walk out of the sheriff's office and like we'll like walk down the street. And it's just wearing like a silk purple like filigreed waistcoat and has like everything else is black. Has a raven skull like bolo tie, new hat, new leather like black well-oiled holsters for damnation and salvation, and just immediately being like, "What's the issue?" and then just escalating things immediately, leading into that comment that Daniel made earlier, which is it's funny because El Paso will become a much more dangerous place in its boomtown era when it starts like growing and becoming a bit more popular.
Marshall, do you want to close it out or me?
I can go next. I think the marshal, in the days after the train has been stopped, has been sort of talking to various citizens of the town, and quite a few people believe that this town is cursed and they want to like head out. But the marshal is leading an organized sort of exodus from the town proper because, well, the Wounded Knight, nothing truly stops that. Now, does it? It will happen again. And if people want to leave, they should leave now. But it's hard to leave by yourself. So we'll do it together. We'll gather our resources and move elsewhere. Perhaps heading back towards the cities, back to New York and whatnot. That'll be a good place. That is a place of artists. That is a place of creators. That is a place for more sensitive folk, more polite folk.
We see death walking on a battlefield with war. They both are imperceptible to the people around them, but they're very close to what we've seen before. Death is shaking its head. That was a nasty little trick you played. You know, I'm not the only one who can walk between worlds. You know that, right? We all can. And we can all get stuck. And War laughs. I'd like to see you try.
And then, elsewhere, sometime later, the open desert. The sun hot overhead. The sky blue and vast. The horizon so far away in this empty expanse. And we hear a whistling, a jaunty tune, and footsteps approach. a figure walks into frame. We just see the snakeskin shoes, yellow hemmed pants, panning up to show a yellow suit. Del Sol adjusts the yellow jacket he's put on, feeling its weight, grinning with a bit of a swagger, looking up to the sky, whistling, and says, my, where will I wander to next? Takes a hat, puts it on his head, and strides out into the open desert. And that brings the campaign of Near Enough to Hell, a Ghost of El Paso story, to a close. Let's do our end of campaign stars and wishes, everyone. Whoever wants to go first, be my guest.
Oh, are you going chaotic?
Oh, you could go.
For tonight or today, not necessarily the campaign. I'll try to think of some of those in a second. But I really like for Alex when you held up the rosary, where the side character held it up. When you did that, like you put your actual hand into like some light, and it just like you from your window or something. It just really it took me back. Well, I'm on Alex. Star for Undead Jimmy Pike. Star for the long line of the dead, for fuel for the engine. I could just see him standing there. And Antonio's that scene with the star for Antonio and or you and Wes for Jackie and Lady Antonia. And I liked her. You have such an off-putting manner of expressing, your thoughts. I like that. That was a cool quote. B. We need to prioritize one devil at a time. That was a good scene with Harrington and Graves in the cemetery, and just you saying when we were theorizing, I have a worse idea. That was great. And it was a good worse idea. The vulnerable scene with you two, it felt like that's when the Harrington and Graves kind of come back together. We came full circle, and you guys are a team again. Speaking of Harrington, Star for cutting off Jimmy Pike's fingers to get him off of you, and I think I regret after seeing how plotting and scheming Harrington was, especially today. I think I regret not sending an application for the El Paso Illuminati to Marshal Harrington. I think that was a misstep on Diamond Dave's part. And then Wes, tomato was good. A premier shootist, gold star shootist. And my favorite quote was, "I may be a piece of shit, but I'm a piece of shit decked out in gold." And I know other people are going to say some of your other stuff, but for the campaign, um, yeah, it's just this was really fun, and I felt like El Paso has so many side characters, and I'm always glad when we can like pull back. Dr. Clarkson, I feel like we lost him in the shuffle, but Jimmy Pike and even Dudley Wainwright made a cameo. So I'm glad we're able to keep the community of El Paso alive. Big star for that. Yeah, and I'm actually glad we left off with the inevitable epilogue, because I kind of feel like Graves was kind of like the star of the show. I kind of feel like that's what I thought. Yeah, it seems like it centers around like the death, trying to figure out what is going on, and so that story arc I think was kind of like central to this campaign, even if sometimes it took the back seat. But that's mine. I'll let you guys take a stab at it.
Yeah, I gotta give a star to like all the action sequences that happened this session. Damn, like just like Edward's coming through the roof, like trying to hang us all, and Jackie just coming in and just being like, yeah, just being bucket. Graves just like, you can try to hang me, but I truly have the pull here. Just like, oh God, that was so good. Diamond Dave, like how to get people moving throughout El Paso. So it was a very, very nice contrast with Andrew Harrington moving people in El Paso. Some of them might be dead people, but it's still moving people. Definitely, like I imagine, I know Dr. Clarkson got lost in the shuffle, but I imagine like Dr. Clarkson went with Andrew Harrington because like less romantic interest, but more like of just like agreeing upon like shit, yeah, El Paso kind of is cursed. Let's go. I think like they can recuperate in time when it's proven that Andrew Harrington is no longer possessed. Because that never really got sorted in El Paso. God, Lady Antonia, just beautiful character. I love her. She's so scary. She wants to kill me, I imagine, but I'm not gonna hang around for that. But oh God, Graves just killing himself at the end there. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? I think like even like like Harrington was just genuinely surprised that that happened. Um, I was expecting to like do other things first, but man, I guess he had to take big swings. But yeah, I'm glad El Paso didn't get explode. So that's real good.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I don't want to interrupt you. Are you good,
Yeah,
chaotic?
good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't want to just be like, because I can yap forever. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna bounce off what chaotic said. I fucking love Lady Antonia. This particular I'm gonna like do it person by person for campaign and tonight. So Alex, I fucking love Lady Antonia in both of our campaigns that we've done. She's a really fun through line. Tonight, her with Jackie was it tickled me. It tickled me. Every time you speak, she just it tickles me. Another definitely a big star, Alex, for Jimmy Pike. Like the vocalizations with the breaths was very powerful. Like you kept his voice and altered it because his physicality had altered. And I just want to give a big fucking acting star to that. That was awesome. And your pacing for us resolving the mastermind was pitch perfect. Because even though I knew we rolled good, I got nervous. Like, I was like, oh, fuck, we're gonna die. And not on purpose. Like, that was really, really fun. And you kept that up the entire game. You juggled so many side characters, like Daniel was saying. It was fucking astounding. I loved the pacing of this. I loved this entire thing. It all felt very cohesive. It all felt like us being in one town, and it made me as a player give a shit about it a lot because you made everybody feel very connected and real and always brought in these other people. And the Reynolds felt very connected to El Paso. They were a very hyper present mastermind. And I kind of liked them actually. Like, even though they were shitty, it's the same reason I like Diamond Dave and Jackie and Andrew and all you little shitheads. It's they were really fun to listen to and to watch and to interact with. Like Edward Reynolds was genuinely kind of scary. Like very at the end. Like I really liked that you leaned into him being more otherworldly and Isabella being this anchor to the physical realm. And that sort of dichotomy between them really made the themes come through because that's what El Paso feels like it's about, you know? And you really made the masterminds like a reflection of that in the way you played them. And I really, really loved that. So that's an all over the campaign stars, the tonight stars. Alex, fucking love it. You're a great keeper. Love it. 10 out of 10. Love your voices. I'm excited to see what you do next with us. What horrible things we do next. Speaking of horrible things, Andrew fucking Harrington. Andrew fucking Harrington. I loved our vulnerable scene. That was really fun. You're a little shit. As delightful. I always love getting to do vulnerable scenes with Graves and Harrington because that was that their dynamic was really weird in a really fun way. And it's like almost aggressive. And I really do agree with Daniel. That felt like it was like a culmination of the entire campaign's arcs of these two particular guys. Like having to work together. I feel like it's a have to, and I felt like it was a really fun way to close that out. I really love you cutting off Jimmy Pike's fingers was bananas. That was a bananas move. Um, you just shooting Isabella Reynolds was so fucking awesome. That really just was so fun with the old Marshal's gun, with you and Alex playing off each other like, yeah, you see one of the old like the old Marshal's badge, and then you use his gun. It's so good. That was so good. Oh my God. Just delightful. And just as an overall campaign thing, I really love Andrew. He's a slimy little fuck. I really like the idea of somebody being the child of an undeniable. That is really cool. Like that's a really cool way to like build out this world because we know it's all connected like at the way we're playing it. Like this really draws in the between. It like has this really fucked up weird through line of yes, those other people make their marks and oftentimes they're not good because clearly Andrew Harrington was not parented well for a variety of reasons. And I feel like it reflecting in this fucked up relationship with everybody and the town and himself was really fun. The weird shape-shifting was fun. Your relationship with Del Sol was fun. You and Alex really killed it on that. That was so good. Oh, that was fun. And just, yeah, I really love it. I really loved Harrington. He was a slimy little marshal, and that's a really fun way to play the marshal. I really love it. Diamond Dave, we're not stopping it, we're stealing it, was peak. That was peak. That was amazing. Like your one-liners, Lady Antonia sends her regards. That'll be 250 for the drinks. Like king of one-liners, Diamond Dave. Like you and using your chains to stop the train. That's so thematically delicious. Like, ugh. And that was so good. That was so good. I loved it every time you talked. I love that we all got to ride in together, including Diamond Dave, who usually doesn't get his hands dirty. Like that you're like, no, I'm gonna go on the train. It's my train now. Like that you were like, no, it's my town now. I have a proposal. Like that's so bootstrapper. That's so him. And I really just as an overall campaign thing, Daniel, I love that you're playing a side character after your original character died. That was a really cool way to make this entire thing feel very cohesive once again. Like everybody's building this very cohesive storyline. And you were like, no, we've met Diamond Dave. And now he's in the Vigilance Committee because that makes sense. And of course, he's the bootstrapper. That's really fun. Like, I love your playstyle. I love your little, like, you nod back to the White Mountain Rescue stuff. Like that's always fun when everybody does that. I'm getting excited. I hit my hat. Like it's really cool to see you play Arkansas and then Diamond Dave, who are, I would say, diametrically different people. Like really different ends of the spectrum of how you handle shit. That was a really cool way to play both sides of this like story where you get to play two different really strong archetypes in a Western. Like, and that was really cool to see the man who wrote the game play these two very different archetypes. Like, that was really cool because you clearly love this genre. And I can tell with every single word in this game, it's written as a love letter to Westerns and to haunted like Westerns, to like to ghost towns. Like this is a really awesome game and I really love it. And I just want to star this entire game as a whole for you, Daniel, because it's amazing. Thank you for writing it so we can play it. I fucking love it. Jackie McMahan, you little shitbird. I love you. I'm going to echo something that got said in one of our last sessions. How dare you introduce him this late in the campaign? How dare you? But actually, it's the only time Jackie needed to get introduced because Jackie did need to have the upper hand. Jackie did need to come in full of mass, ready to just blow him on whatever, ready to rock and roll and disrupt everything. that's the style that you were bringing. And it was really powerful. Like everything that you said, like I really love your like almost Jack. My neighbor's mowing. I'm so sorry if you can hear that. This like almost like Jack Nicholson-esque energy you're bringing, like a young Jack Nicholson, is just delicious. It was menacing. It was enticing. It was like this, like you like him, but you know he's really dangerous. And you didn't give a fuck about being like that at Lady Antonia, at a dude who wanted to kill you. The white flag thing was amazing. And like you didn't care about doing that to anybody because of course Jackie has the upper hand. And like start to like that backstory like with Jackie and Dave, that was so sweet. I know you beat the shit out of a kid and stuff, shoved like horse shit in his mouth, but I was like, oh, Jackie cares about his brother. Like it was really sweet actually. And then like Andrew like description of the fight scenes, like with that and the train. Wes, your fight scenes are always fucking crazy. Like that's an overall campaign star, a player star. You all like should direct action movies because you've got that like just you've got the vision. You've really got the vision, and it's intense every time. And just an overall campaign star of once again, you played somebody connected to a character in this story already, somebody who was a side character who got turned into a player character, and bringing Jackie in after you mercilessly killed our lovely, lovely woman. How dare you? Our lovely, lovely lost. But like, it's okay. Mother Ruth, God rest her soul. She needed an ending like that. But coming and playing Jackie and like, yes, he's connected. That really, once again, you built this cohesive world. And it feels like there really is an after with Dave and Jackie. It feels like, yes, they are bringing in this second era of El Paso because they're kind of the bad guys. And that was really fun. And just like Daniel, you played these two completely opposite people. Like, once Mother Ruth was gone, you were like, I'm gonna be a con artist. And like, that's a really fun way to play the kid. I really loved all the weird magic shit. I really love the way that you do voices for your characters because it tells us a lot about your characters as soon as you open your mouth. Like, because they're always very bombastic in their own right. Even if they're very subdued characters, the voices have a lot going on to tell us about them. And I really fucking love that. That's a whole campaign star. That was astounding. And I'm excited. I have headcanons about what Dave and Jackie are doing and what Andrew's doing, apparently going to try to establish a cult in New York. Like everybody's doing crazy shit. I love it so much. I love you all dearly. This was a delight, and I'm going to let someone else go now.
Hi, it's me, just here to say, starting from how I'm seeing things, Andrew Harrington, chaotic. For this session, it feels like a very particular, like, there's a lot of times where I was like, I hope I don't overshadow Harrington too much, because the Marshal is also one of those characters that made it through the entire time, which is like through the entire through line of the campaign. But then also, like, there are just moments where it's like, makes sense though, because the Marshal is just like the entire story of Harrington has been I'm in control and I'm doing things and I'm in control and I'm losing control. Harrington is losing control of things as the Marshal. I've built this whole identity and that's being pulled away from me. The bounty hunter showing up and then things are getting pulled up and ripped out from under my feet. And then ends up becoming a servant of the mastermind. So that's just one more thing hanging over your head. Del Sol the entire time talking to you like some cryptic fucking riddle master, and eventually to the point of like inhabiting your body and everything. Like, so I feel like especially with your epilogue, like the entire story leading up to it, it feels earned, because this was never a story about Marshal Harrington finding a place in El Paso. It was about Marshal Harrington being able to let go of the past and move forward to something more, even if that isn't completely altruistic, even if it is just a let's get a bunch of groups together, let's get a bunch of people together and let's go someplace else and everything. And that might end in tragedy. It might be, but that's a different story. And for this story now, like it is probably as good as an ending as you will ever get for the Marshal. Um, and so like yeah, like chaotic. I love the characters that you play. They all have like an edge to them, even if they are like if they see like just like a little guy, oh look at that little guy, and but it's like they have a very particularly wicked edge to them, and I think you do that really really well. Um, I am also just like very much like at awe of chaotic of your like your willingness to like your patience and willingness to make sure that as things progress and they move forward you like you keep plot lines in your head and like I don't know how you do your note taking or anything like that, but you're very cognizant and aware of like different things that have happened before and how to tie them in down the line to where it makes sense and it's a cohesive narrative plot from like especially from a player standpoint. I haven't had the privilege to be in a game that you've run yet, and I hope I get to change that at some point soon, maybe if my life gets its fucking shit together. But like I can see like your ability as a keeper and a game master shine through as a player, and that's very, very cool. Um, Daniel Qualls. What can I say about Daniel Qualls that I haven't already said? Daniel is one of my favorite people in the world, and I am so happy that I was allowed to play your brother for a little bit. I like the dynamic that we established where there's a little bit of like there's butting heads and everything, but there's a fondness and love for one another that is very toxic on a sibling level. But it's very entertaining. And like if my only regret is that we never had a bickering moment or a full-on fight as siblings, just a little bit of snipes back and forth. But I mean, that's just on the surface of their relationship. If you wanna if you wanna see the full breadth of their relationship, then you're gonna have to watch Near Enough to Hell 2, The Search for Sargasso's Gold or whatever you fucking subtitle it or whatever thing like that. But like like very much like you gave even with Diamond Dave and like you gave such like a truly like a gift, a bountiful gift of things for me to work with as Jackie and like and you made him entertaining and wholly fulfilled as a character to where I was able to work off of you really well. So it's really cool as a scene partner, especially to be able to work so close to somebody like that. Um, I also do want to talk a little bit about your time as the Calamity and with chasing after like Blackheart Vermilion and everything like that. Like let's give a shout out for Arkansas McGee. I'm just looking over. I popped him open in the fucking character keeper, but I'm just looking over him again and everything and all these moves and like I like you also were an inspiration for me being allowed to let go of Mother Ruth because I was like at the point I was like I think Mother Ruth has to make it to the end. I think there's a point where Mother Ruth has to make it to the end. And like you just having such like you had your finger on the pulse of what made the Calamity because you wrote the Calamity, but like what made Arkansas McGee stick out amongst that group, and you saw a natural endpoint for Arkansas McGee that made sense. It tied everything up nicely. To the point where it really inspired me to Mother Ruth and being like, I do think that the siege is as far as she goes. I think that that is an emotional button worthy enough of her story, especially what I set up with her like backgrounds and everything. And so you really kind of like laid the groundwork for me as another player where I felt more comfortable and I felt more like I had like a better handle and ability on being able to make a decision like that. Um, I love the characters that you play. I love. I cannot wait to see you play a younger character, a young person, or anything like that. Because like your characters that we've played in this series, like these games so far, have like a paternal kind of vibe to them, even if it is like with Arkansas. A paternal role model to not follow and everything but like with Diamond Dave of like having this kind of paternal attitude towards the town of El Paso in general, where it's like, I will do whatever it takes and I will sell this town to whoever I need to make sure that I'm okay and the people that work for me okay and that this town is okay. I will sell this town down the river if it means that we don't sink now. Like that kind of thing. And I really appreciate that in the character. I think that is a really interesting character, like perspective to come from where it's like I love and it's very Wilson Fisk, Kingpin in a way of like I love this city and I love New York and I love Vanessa and I love everything to the point that I will murder people, I will do terrible awful things to make sure that it is successful and it doesn't like it doesn't falter, and I think that's really cool. Benar. Oh, also stars for tonight of David, like the ending line, like just the ending lines of like Lady Antonia sends her regards. Of course, yeah, we're not stopping this train, we're stealing it. Um, uh, yeah, your interaction with Talia, to get the ghost horses, just all good stuff. And then also for Andrew Harrington, the malice and menace on the train, and like the sequence and the scene with like talking to Jimmy Pike and everything is just like I love that we get to see levels all the time. And tonight's levels, there was a lot of variety in levels and verticality to your character, to your like character and morality and ethics today. I really appreciated it. Benar. Um, the grabbing one of the noose and pulling Edward closer, stringing him up, and then like allowing the cherry on top to be the neck snapping. Thank you for giving me that moment to teeing me up. It felt like volleyball. You set me up so that I could spike it. And I wouldn't have had that moment without you. And so I just want to let everybody know at home and everything that's all you. You take the full credit for that sequence. I just acted in it.
And
I said,
chaotic for reminding me you had the noose.
absolutely, absolutely. Like it was stated, I'm just the trigger. And so like that's that, and like uh, your epilogue sequence is very cool. It feels like such a fitting like ending to set on where it's just like we had this like battle of good and evil in the middle of Texas, and like to have it just be dwelling on like it was just a dalliance, back and forth between siblings, like that kind of thing. Like it gives it cosmic perspective, and I really appreciate that. Um, yeah, your through line with Graves from the very beginning of like Bartholomew Graves, this little piece of shit, and like building it out, and like I really loved your journey through this whole game of like Graves learning about humanity and learning to like to have like a certain type of care or perspective when dealing with mortals and like things that have a natural progression of life. Like I think we really got to see a really cool, like once again, like I said for the other two, like a really cool, well-rounded, fully functioning story that had a natural endpoint. The fucking blowing your brains out in front of everybody, where you just realize where you're like, fuck, okay, yeah. And then just put like it's one of those things that like even like Jackie would see it and be surprised. Like Jackie's like, I've seen everything, and then seeing that and being like, now I've seen everything. Like that kind of like that moment, like it very shocking and very cool. Folks, please get help if you're ever feeling feelings towards that or anything like that. Do not get spring-loaded derringers in your wrist and everything like that. It's just over extravagant. The spring loads might fail. You might drop the derringers. It's just a whole problem. It's a very creative way to do it during the Old West. Let's move on from it. No. All this to say, thank you, B, for being such a great scene partner and for being such a good role play partner. As someone that has played somebody that is obsessed with you and got cucked by you multiple times in the between over on plus one, and then to play somebody where within the first session I got to jerk you off in a closet, all the way up to where we are now. With getting your not it started with a little bit of brain and it ended with a little bit of brain. Let's just say that. And what a great way to send you off. Alex Rybitski. I adore your keeper style. I adore your ability to understand. We can tell that you are a theater kid, not in a derogatory sense, but in like a way that like you I never have to worry. There's a really popular thing happening in TTRPGs, especially actual plays right now, where you need a dramaturgist in your show and things for that. And like I have opinions that if you want to hear about that, then you have to pay me money, because and you might not be able to pay me enough to put my opinions out there about what I think about dramaturgy and TTRPG. But you have such an understanding of how story goes and where things are leading to and what we're working towards, and you have such a knack for taking wild concepts from four different people and then stringing them and then weaving them together to make a coherent, strong rope for us to hang ourselves with, which is fantastic. Which like that's what I want with a TTRPG. That's what I want from a keeper. I want somebody that's going to take all my creativity and all the other people's creativity and is going to find a way for us to screw ourselves over, because that's interesting. That's drama. You have fantastic well, this is the point of like what I'm thinking, fantastic complications and consequences to our actions. You have like the tonight in particular, the Lady Antonia scene, and like the barrage of just like insults to Jackie, to the point where it started from like oh, this is entertaining, oh, this is flirting, to the you've crossed a line. Like I could feel it. I could hear the moments where I'm like, oh, you would have crossed the line to Jackie, where I was just at the point I was like, I don't know if I just interrupt you with just straight up shooting her, as that's the failure of where I just shoot her like she's just interrupted by a gunshot, and like I would have put on a mask anyways, but like you just made it so like tense to where I was like, I'm putting on a mask no matter what. I'm going to put on a mask no matter what. You led me to that, and so I think that's very cool. This story is, you have me being like, are there any Western games that I have not played yet, or like TTRPGs, but also video games where I'm just like, you have. This is a good game because it has redirected my my autistic hyperfixation from Robbie Williams and boy bands from Britain back to Wild West media and things like that, and like doing research for Wild West, to where the point where I'm like, are there any video games that I can play? Are there any books that I need to read that are on my like my watch list and my read list? So thank you for that. And thank you for all the beautiful ties to our previous games and things that I know that are going to tie into future games. This is a great group of people to play with, and I truly, truly, well and truly like love and appreciate and respect all of you, not only as like professionals, but like as creative people, but also as friends. And I'm very lucky to be able to have times, especially with like where life is right now and where my life is right now, where I'm just like stressed 24/7. There's at least 3 hours a week that I am not stressed. And like where this is like a game that does not feel like work. So I really appreciate that. And Del Sol did nothing wrong, and neither did Jackie McMahan. I can't wait to show off all the Jackie campaign shirts that says Jackie is fine. All those things like that. We'll figure it out. No, great. Thank you so much.
And I will carry it last. A lot of what I was going to say has been said. So I'll just keep it pretty short and just talk and just overall summarize by saying I've had a delightful time with this campaign. What a wild ride it has been. I've loved these characters dearly. I've loved our time in El Paso. And in more ways than one, this is actually, in addition to just, being a great campaign in our ongoing anthology ideas, this felt like a send off, a bon voyage to the old rules of the game, and especially because in other games now embracing the newer editions rules has just made for such an experience. So like getting to kind of have it like, this, I can tell like this is the last time I'm ever going to run like the between like this with the old rules. And it was a great story top to bottom. I love these characters. The fact that we had two deaths in the main campaign, and then we also had a death here at the end. Wow, just what a saga. I love the journey these characters went on. I miss Arkansas McGee dearly, and I hope he's found peace. Same with Mother Calvo in The Great Beyond. man, I will miss Graves' presence, but I absolutely loved getting to share the scene with you as War from time to time and just be over dramatic. And yeah, I mean, like Wes, Mother Calvo was an amazing character. Jackie was a stunning addition to the end and really kind of added something that I thought the campaign really benefited from in the final few episodes. Chaotic Harrington has been a complicated mess of a man, and I've loved him from every moment. I wish him nothing but the worst. I hope he has as hard of a life as someone like him can get, and he is just a terrible person. And Diamond Dave coming in there with as the bootstrapper. Again, Daniel Qualls, I will echo what I've said before. Love your characters, love the thought you put into them. I too am excited to see future runs of your characters. But I've seen Hank, I've seen Arkansas, and I have seen now Diamond Dave. And you really did get my gears turning when you adopted Diamond Dave of like, oh, characters can just pick up NPCs and side characters. That's awesome. That's actually a really cool way to think about the campaign. So yeah, I'm not going to go off too long because I could just say like a lot of what was already been said, but I won't. This was a great story. It added a lot to our kind of like shared narrative. I'm excited to see what happens next, although I know that we will not be returning to the Brindleverse yet. I'm just excited to playing with you guys because it's always a delight to see what stories we tell together. So thank you all so much for playing. And to people who have watched these episodes, thank you for watching and following along this Ghost of El Paso story. If there are no stars and wishes, at the end here, I will wave goodbye and herald out the end of our game.